Go love your own enemies. Don't be loving mine. My enemies are the theocratic fascists. I don't love them. I want to destroy them.
You're a child made in the image of God. Oh no, you're not. You're a faggot. And you can't join your church and you can't go to heaven. This is disgraceful. It's inhuman.
According to Christians, God made us, didn't he? God made us. So when he made us, did he make us prepared to endure the challenge, to endure the test, the onslaughts that awaited us? Did he make sure that we would be fit to persevere before letting us out the starting gate? Or did he deliberately make us broken? Wouldn't that be like breaking Ruffian's leg before the starting gate opened? Wouldn't that be like deliberately kicking her in the leg with your boot to weaken the leg? So you know the chance of it breaking would be even greater. Wouldn't that be kind of the same thing as making us broken, making us, before we even start out, flawed, preparing us to fail, preparing us to break down, to prepare us to trip up? Because that's what God did. If God doesn't make mistakes, if God is all-knowing and he sees the future and he's perfect, everything he makes is exactly perfect according to his divine plan. So it must have been part of his divine plan for humans to trip up, for humans to fail at the test, for humans to succumb to temptation, because he made us so that we would succumb to temptation. At least with horses. Granted, it's a cruel sport. I don't think the humans mean to be cruel, but you're running a horse a huge amount of weight, a heavy animal on spindly little legs at a very young age before they're really physically mature. And you're going to have terrible things happen sometimes. Humans have good intentions. They don't actually make sure the animal's going to break down in the race. They put them in the starting gate. They're trying, they've inspected them very closely. They've inspected their legs and their hooves and their muscles. They check for hot spots. They check for swelling. They check for cracks in the feet. They check for sweaty, if the horse sweats too much before the race. They check to see if the horse is on its feed. They check to see if the horse seems lethargic. There's all these things that the humans do to check, make sure the horse is fit to run, make sure that he's as healthy as he can be when he goes into the starting gate. And then he has a chance to win. That's what the humans do for their animals, for their horses. I don't think God did that for supposedly he made the first humans. I don't think he did that. In fact, I think he made good and sure that there was going to be a breakdown. Christians like to say that we have free will. How much free will do we have if we're made deliberately broken? If we're made deliberately flawed so that we will fail, because that's part of the plan that we fail, how much free will do we have really? This movie coming out, what is it, Exodus? Let's promote the fiction. Let's make fiction look like it's real history even more. Exodus shows a good example of how God doesn't tamper with free will. Yeah, free will, yeah. except that God can tamper with. Oh, he doesn't tamper with. Well, he does in the story of Exodus, doesn't he? He does tamper with free will. How much free will does Pharaoh have in that story? You know, the Bible's pretty clear about what happens in that story. God hardens Pharaoh's heart. God hardens Pharaoh's heart. So Pharaoh could be sitting there on his throne and he might really badly want to say, yes, go. But he can't. He hears himself say no instead. Maybe he doesn't even know what the hell made him say no. Because he was all ready to say yes, and then all of a sudden he opens his mouth and what pops out? No. Because it says in the Bible, God hardens Pharaoh's heart. Why would God do that? Well, first of all, he's messing with Pharaoh's free will, which it supposedly he's not supposed to do, but he does. Which means if he could do that to Pharaoh, who's to say that he doesn't do it in our lives every single day? Who's to say when something people go to jail for murder. Did they have any control over their actions? Are they to blame for committing murder? Or maybe that murder needed to happen because it's part of God's divine plan. And he did a little tweaking of their free will just for that moment because that murder really needed to happen. Because that's what Christians will say about Pharaoh. Oh, well, that's different because, God, that was good. God did that because that's good. It's part of his plan. Right? So if God can mess with free will, who's to say he hasn't and doesn't on a regular basis in our lives all the time? Free will. We have free will. Do we really? Because we know he can mess with it when he wants to, because the story of Pharaoh shows it clearly. And why did God mess with Pharaoh's free will? Why did God harden his heart so he had the word no on his lips instead of yes? Because God wasn't done yet with the Egyptians. No, God had some stuff he wanted to do to those Egyptians. He wanted to do some things to them. He wanted to destroy those Egyptians slowly. And, we wanted to prolong the agony as much as possible. So Pharaoh might have wanted to say yes, but he said no. Because God repeatedly put off that yes answer so he could do some more mean things to those Egyptians. Until he could get to the big piece de la resistance. This is me trying to do... me trying to speak French. I have no idea how to say that. Until he can get to the climax of the story, he kill those babies. Because God loves to kill babies. God loves to kill little children. In the Bible, it's all over the place that he gets off on it. Happy are ye when you're dashing thy little ones on the rocks. Whatever the hell that verse is in Psalms. Real nice verse. Cutting open pregnant women with swords. Yes, we did that too. God ordered that too. Oh, so much for anti-abortion. No, but God killed. This was the final thing. He was kind of building up to this. Killed all the firstborns in Egypt. Not just the babies. But the firstborn adults too. The oldest siblings. The firstborn animals. The firstborn everything. God just killed them all. After hardening Pharaoh's heart repeatedly so Pharaoh couldn't say, yes, please, get the fuck out of my city. Instead, Pharaoh said no because God made him say no. So God could get to the point where he could just slaughter all those firstborn children. Yeah, free will. The Bible shows very clearly God's definition of what free will is. Not impressed. Not impressed. That and the fact that Christians lay it on like, well, you do have free will. You could choose to believe. People don't choose to believe things. They are compelled. You have to convince people. Once you have convinced somebody, that something is true, they believe it. It doesn't take any work because you've convinced them. Must be true because you've provided enough information for them to be convinced. You don't just say, oh, you know what? I've decided to believe today. I didn't believe yesterday, but I'm going to turn on the old belief switch in the back here, and now I believe. Or maybe I choose not to turn on the belief switch. That's not how belief works. It's not a choice. You are either going to believe because you've been convinced, or you don't. So Christians who use free will as, oh, well, you could if you wanted to. No. People cannot believe something just because they want to believe in it, you know? I would love to believe in flying unicorns. I would love to believe that they were real. Because, you know, it's a dream of mine. I've always wanted one. But I'm sorry, I can't just believe in them. It takes a little more than that. You know? So anyway, I'm hoping this all ties together and makes sense. I wanted to make a tribute to Ruffian, some kind of tribute, and I thought I could tie in what happened to her in the whole idea of free will and the idea of deliberately making somebody flawed and then blaming them for being flawed and punishing them for being flawed. You know? Expecting them to perform to their highest capacity, performing to the point of winning, expecting them to adhere to all the things you put in, but you make them broken. You want them to succeed, but you make them broken. You let the starting gate open and they're broken, and you still expect them to win.
I am absolutely convinced that the main source of hatred in the world is religion. And I think it should be religion treated with ridicule and hatred and contempt.